Good morning, everybody. Welcome to our introduction to Green Energy Compass. My name is Bruce Mast. I'm the Director of Programs here at Build a Green. I want to thank all of you for being with us today. This is going to be a fairly informal session. It's a small group. This is not a webinar with 50 people on the call. It's a small group. So one thing we can do here, Matt, if you would just go ahead and unmute everybody here to start. Because it's a small group, we can unmute you at this end. I would ask you, as a courtesy, just to go ahead and mute your own phone, just to cut down the background noise. Hopefully, all of you see a icon for raising your hand. That'd be a good way to let us know that you have a question as we go along, and then I can call on you, and you can ask your question directly, so we can hear you. So you'll be able to talk to us. We can hear you now. To give you a little background about what we want to do today, so introduce Green Energy Compass and get you guys proficient in using it, get you set up with your login IDs and everything. We're starting with a small group of power users, and our approach here is that you're the ones who have been on the system already the most. You already know the most about how the interim system works. You'll have the shortest learning. There's some background noise that needs to be muted. I guess we better mute everybody again. Then we'll unmute you periodically for questions. So so now you're muted again. So, like I say, you're a small group of power users. We want to start with you because there are still things that we're making changes to the system to refine it, make it work a little better in some places. We think that you'll have the shortest learning curve. By being in this first wave, what it means for you is that you'll get much more individualized attention and technical support in working through the system. What we ask of you in return is that you be our partner in refining the system, identifying for us where we can make it work better, where the training needs to be tightened up, or where the user guide needs to be refined, etc. A few more things to say about this. We have a user guide that is a draft user guide. What we have right now is a generic version that is for Compass generally, but has not been tailored yet for this specific application with PG&E. So Compass is a system that was built by Performance Systems Development. They're out of New York. They use it all over the country. They have different versions of it depending on which program they're working for. So we have a generic user guide, but it hasn't been tailored yet. It hasn't been customized for us. So you'll have access to that. Another thing to note is that if you log in today, you'll see many of your jobs, but not all of them. So some of the jobs that you have uploaded to the portal, we haven't entered yet into Compass. By Monday, we believe we can have all of those jobs in there so that on Monday when you log on, you should be able to see all your jobs. So we're working towards that. With that, I should shut up and let Steve take over. So Steve Mann will be walking us through the Compass system today and giving us an orientation about how it works. So I will turn it over to Steve.
Great, thanks, Bruce. Let me actually take us out to the login screen, and just to show you how to get started. You all already have accounts set up. The URL is pge.greenenergycompass.com, and if you go there, this is what you'll see initially. I've got an account set up for myself. We're in here as a contractor, so what you're going to see on the screen is the same stuff that you're going to see once you log in. When we go in as QA people, we actually see more details, and we may take a look at that later on. Depends on whether we think that's going to be useful or not. Just so you know, I'll tell you your logins right now. Those of you that were invited to the webinar, your user ID is your email address, and your password for all of you is the word GE Compass with a capital G, capital E, and a capital C. And of course, you can change that. I'd recommend that you do change that once you get logged in for the first time or at some point in the not too distant future. Once you log in, this is what you're going to see. These are tabs up here, and this sort of gets you to navigate through the system up at the top. We're currently looking at the dashboard, and the dashboard basically shows you some graphical stats about some of your jobs. I pretty much ignore these. I mean, they're cute, but it doesn't really help me get any work done, but that's just me. Over here is your job list, and this is probably going to be the most important thing you're going to want to start with. Creating a job from confirmation code or leads, I would say ignore that because we're not really using that right now. And Green Energy Surveyor user guide and download Green Energy Surveyor, I would say ignore that for now. We're going to be using Surveyor for basic jobs only. And we've only gotten, so far in post-installation, we've gotten one basic job. So most of you are doing advanced jobs. If you are doing basic jobs, you might want to download this stuff and look at it, but we haven't really started dealing with basic jobs yet. Okay. From here, you can click on the job list here. You can click on the job list up here. I'll do it up here, but you get to the same place. Once you do that, this is what you're going to see. Here's your job ID, some basic stuff, and the status. These headings are all sortable. So when you've got 50 jobs, and you want to look at it in a particular order, that's how you do it. If you want to just look up a particular job, like right here, this is a search filter that will match on job name. Okay, so a couple of different ways to navigate there. I've already got a job in here. It's a pre-application submitted, and we'll talk about that in a few minutes. I'm just going to go ahead and walk you through adding a job for starters, and some of this should look pretty familiar, at least in terms of the content. When you first add a job, you go to this screen right here, and I'm just going to fill in some stuff. And my typing skills aren't that good. That's just the way it is. Okay. The fields with asterisks are required. You can't get past this screen unless you fill in all of those things. We would encourage you to fill in all the fields. You should have that data. There's nothing really unusual or bizarre or hard to track down here. So for this, we really kind of need the owner name because that's who gets the rebate check. Although it's not required at some point, if we make it through the process and there's a rebate, we're going to need this. So you might as well give it to us up front. That's not my real phone number, just so you know, you can't call me on that phone number. Okay, household income, nobody's giving us that. That's pretty personal data as far as I'm concerned. This is my actual house. It definitely needs an energy upgrade, California, so we're working on that. And then here you'll see this should look familiar from the JRT, not the weather station, but the year belt, conditioned area, occupant stories, and the hot water fuel. If you remember, for those of you that were with us on Wednesday when we were talking about how to get a job through, and I said if you're using the CVPCA JRTs to submit a post-installation job, we have to have the number of occupants and the number of stories, even though it wasn't required there. This is why. We can't put a job in the system without that information. Yeah, you could make something up there if you want, but we'd encourage you to actually give us the real data because it just helps in the end determining how successful this program is, and PG&E really wants to know how successful this program is. If you've got a completed JRT, all of this additional information should be easy to pull out. The only thing not in the JRT is down here, the type of hot water system. And if you'll remember, one of our tips for getting a job through the system was tell us what type of hot water system it was. And this was why, because we really wanted to collect this information as well. Let me just go ahead and fill this stuff out. Primary fuel, I don't know, nobody's doing wood as far as I know. Air conditioning, you've got various choices here. I'm not going to go through the choices. You can log on and see what's here. We haven't found a case where you're installing a type of system that is not covered by the choices, but if you do, send me an email and we'll get it in there. It might take us a few days, but we will get it in there. Okay, foundation type is a vented crawl space, And for now, everything should be single-family detached, although that may change soon. We'll see how that goes. Okay, save and continue. Then it's going to take you automatically to the next screen called Create a Meter. Now I'm going to back out of this and just show you where we are in the building now. Okay, this is the basic view you're going to get for an individual building. You've got this section here, which is the edit building, which we just went through. Okay, and it was going to take you from edit a building automatically to add a meter. It'll step you through that, and it'll step you through 2 meters if you want to do that. I just wanted to show you this to say you can save and sort of stop at any point in time, and when you come back and look at the job, you'll come back to this view and you can pick up where you left off. So you don't have to do all of these things in the order that it sort of guides you through. You can do them in discrete chunks. If you just want to get a job started and you don't know the meters or the service IDs, you can do that later on. Now this is where you're going to see why we've been such a pain about asking you for service IDs. Because right here it says account number, but what this really is the service ID. We can't get a job through the system without the service ID. So as we talked about on Wednesday, please, please, please get them if you can from your customer. Get a utility bill. If you can get a utility bill, they're right there. They're easy to find. If you can't find them because it's new movement or something, we have ways of doing it, but it's extra work for us. We're happy to do it, but it slows down getting jobs through the system. So everything we have to do that you can't do slows down the pipeline, and we all want the pipeline to be fast. The account numbers should be 10 digits. If they're leading zeros, you have to put the zeros in there, and I don't know how many digits I put in, so let me just count them. Okay, the utility is going to be either PG&E or other. And for electricity, you're going to be doing kilowatt hours. Okay, it's going to require a measure there. Now, this goes back to the JRT where we're asking for utility bill data. We'd like to have utility bill data, but it's not required. If you have monthly utility bill data, you can do an Excel import. And this is, if you remember back in the JRT, there are those 2 worksheets for gas and electricity. If you use it, well, there are a couple of ways you can go here. Interesting. Okay, you can do an Excel import. If you do that, you can download a template here, and this is a little Excel worksheet. Let me just go ahead and show you what that looks like. And this should look familiar. This is actually the 1 worksheet version of the gas and electric worksheets that are in the IJRT. So they're the same format. Here, start date, end date, consumption, that would be in kilowatts or therms, depending on the fuel type, the cost, and whether it's estimated or not. And typically this will be no. Now, if you take this route, we need for you to fill out all these columns, and we need it for 12 months. If you put in 11 months or 13 months and you go to import it, Green Energy Compass will yell at you. It'll accept it, but it will yell at you, so just be warned. If you have overlapping dates, it will yell at you, and I don't think it will properly do the calculations here in terms of the consumption calculations, which it uses to estimate savings. So you want to make sure that that data is in the right format if you've got the monthly data. That's how you get the template. Once you fill the template out somewhere else on your system, you go ahead and browse, and I'm not quite sure what it called it. It's out here somewhere. I'm not going to try and find it, but basically this should look familiar to you, okay? And then you do the import, or you can cancel. The other thing you can do is you can actually enter this data. You can add a line at a time, enter the data, same format, and fill it in. And again, you need to, the dates have to be continuous, and there can't be any overlapping dates from one month to another, and so on and so forth. Again, you'll get error messages. If you don't want to do this part, if this is just too much work or your data is not in that format, and it's a lot of work to actually do the monthly setup so that it's compatible with this, you can just add them up and put in an annual total. And we've been doing this for a lot of cases where you've sent us information that was not in the right format, and we didn't want to take the time to reformat it because it can take, you know, several minutes to do that. So we just summed it up and put it in here. If you can put in either cost or consumption if you want. You should have both. I mean, if you've got an annual data, you probably have both. But in case you don't, you can put in consumption, for instance, and then calculate. If I can get the, okay, it kind of pops up there. Click to calculate, which you can't see. Basically what that's saying is if you click on this, it will calculate consumption for you based on this average price. And it pulls this from a database of prices around the country, regional prices. I found that this is actually fairly accurate. It's usually within 10%. But the other thing, you know, like I said, you probably have both. So if you've got both, put them in there and save and continue. Now, if you do not have consumption data, which is not everybody has consumption data, what we'd like you to do is go ahead and put in consumption unit of 1 and then do the calculate from consumption and save and continue or save and add meter. Okay? I know there are cases where you do not have any utility data, but we have to have something in those fields. A Green Energy Compass wants something there. So we've done this in cases where we've had no data. So once you've got either annual or monthly data in here and you've filled this in properly, you've got two choices. You can save and add meter or you can save and continue. The most successful way to get a job through the system is to have 2 meters in there, one for electricity and one for gas. If you don't have a gas source, of course, it doesn't make sense to put one in there. But most likely you will have one. Now, if it's not PG&E, we want you to put in other here. And then go ahead and, again, if you have data for the other one, you can put it in there. It's not relevant to this program, but again, if it is an other, you should at least put a 1 in here and calculate consumption from that, and then save and continue. So let's go ahead and make this all PG&E for now. Okay, and it automatically switches it to therms. I don't actually have any utility bills at this point. So we'll go ahead and then we'll do a save and continue because you've got all your meters in there. You don't need to save and add yet another meter. That's this step right here. If you go down to the bottom, now you'll see your meter data. Okay, and you can add another meter. Here's a button for adding a meter. There's this button up here for adding a meter. There's redundant buttons for adding stuff generally all over the place. If you want to put the meters in to get the job started in the system and you go back and you have annual data later on, you can go back here and click on the edit button and you come back to this same screen. You can switch it from annual to monthly and put in the monthly data. Okay, see already it's giving us, this is very picky error checking on this information right here, so I'll just tell you you've got to get it right. You can go back and do that, okay, but we'll cancel out of that. It takes us back. If you want to delete the meter because it's completely wrong, let's say you got the service ID wrong, the consumption numbers are wrong, you just want to start over, you can delete it right here and it will take just that meter out. And then you can go back and add it back in, okay? Forget this export, that's of no use to us right now. It may be at some point in the future. Okay, those are the first 2 steps. You edit the building or you add the building, and that's basically information from the JRT, and then you add 1 or 2 meters. Actually, we'd like you to add 2. That's that step. Why don't we stop and see if there are any questions? Would that be a good idea?
Yeah, so go ahead and raise your hand if you got a question. Let's take people off mute here momentarily. And hopefully we won't have too much background noise. Can you unmute all?
I'm not able to log in.
You're talking.
So you're not. So we've unmuted folks. So if just be aware now that you can hear whatever's going on in your office in the background. Any questions from folks so far from what you've seen?
Were we already emailed our login information?
It sounds like folks are not having. Are you having trouble logging in?
Well, we didn't receive our login information yet.
We didn't email it to you. It's the same for everybody. It's your email address that you were, the email address you were invited to this webinar with which we pulled from the primary administrative contacts we had for you folks. And your password is GE Compass, capital G, capital E, capital C. It stands for Green Energy Compass. You all have the same.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So you should probably change that at your earliest convenience because you have the same password as everyone else, which means that anyone on this call who knows your email knows how to log into your account. So you should go ahead and change that. For this morning, I would encourage folks to follow the presentation and not get too distracted, looking at your own jobs while we're going along. Why don't we keep going? Steve?
Okay, all right. So you enter the basic building data, you add the meters, then you go to the pre-application section here. All these icons are buttons, and when you're actually allowed to do stuff, they become active. In this case, once you add a meter, you can finish the pre-application process. Okay, now here it's going to ask you for some basic information. First of all, it's going to ask you what the building modeling is, and typically that's going to be Energy Pro. In all cases, it's going to be Energy Pro. If and when recurve gets approved, it will be added to this list. It's going to ask you for an audit date. Okay. Some of these fields have fairly specific editing formats and things like that. Audit time, I've never seen that on an IJRT, so we don't worry about that. BPI Building Analyst, there's going to be a pop-up here. Now the names that are in this list are going to be names that have previously been submitted on jobs that we've added to the system. Currently, there's no way that you can add a name to this list. We're working on making that available to you. So if you go to add a job and the BPI analyst is not in this list, you need to send me an email and say, please add this, and I'll go ahead and add that, and then you can finish adding the job. This is awkward and it's kind of silly, but we hope to have that straightened out very shortly. But that's the current state of things right there. Okay. Blower door in, we're going to need that. Proposed package costs, we'll need something there. And audit hours, nobody has really submitted audit hours to us. If you have it, great. If not, that's okay. Okay, save and continue. Once you do this part, then it takes you to a whole new screen, and this is the pre-application submittal screen, and this is going to look kind of familiar too in some respects. If we go back and do edit basic data, it'll take us back here, so you can go back and change this at any point in time. Okay, now what we're going to end up here is this should look vaguely familiar from the portal. It's basically a drop-down of file types. And what you do is you select a file type, you browse, you find it, and it's here somewhere. Let me see. Right there. Okay. There's the JRT, and then you upload it. It takes a moment, and you scroll down, and you'll see that it starts building a list of the files that you've submitted here. And you can go back and delete them. You can download them to another destination, whatever you want to do. Okay, so typically once you get to this point, you're just going to want to add all of the files you've got for the job. And the rules are basically the same as what we talked about on Wednesday and what the current rules are. Okay. It's got this drop down with all this stuff. The action guidelines are still optional. We need the JRT, although that's going to go away because essentially when you edit this building, when you enter the building data, you're entering pretty much everything that's in the JRT for the most part. So at some point this will go away because it's redundant. We need the CAS data collection form. We need the Energy Pro Econ 2 XML data. We need the Energy Pro building model. We need a proposal or statement of work. If you have other things you think we might want or you just have to give us because you can't help yourself, put it in a zip archive and put it all in here. We have been telling people that if you have like extreme building leakage or extreme duct leakage, we might start asking you for photos of the manometer readings as you're doing the testing, just so we've got some evidence that you really did get some kind of outrageous number. Things like that, if you feel like maybe we're going to come back and ask you for that, you can be preemptive. Send us the photos, put them in a zip archive, and upload them, and just tell us where they are. Okay, there's the JRT, the CAS measurements form. Let's just load the rest of this stuff in here. The Energy Pro XML. the building model. Where did that go? Sorry, my desktop isn't that well organized. There we go. And proposal or statement of work. And I call that. Okay. Now this system actually does have some smarts. It just doesn't upload these things. It actually looks at these files. And if you'll notice down here under proposed improvements all of a sudden, when I uploaded the XML file, it actually parsed through that file and it identified the improvements that you selected in your alternatives tab in Energy Pro, pulled them off by name and put them out here. Okay. So this is the full set of your improvements. You do not want to use this button to add stuff. It's just going to mess things up. It's done automatically for you from the XML file. And likewise, if you start fiddling with this stuff, you could cause problems because essentially we want this list of recommendations right here to match what's in your build model in your XML file. And if you start deleting or editing or adding other stuff, there are going to be problems. So I would urge you to stay away from this part right here and just use this section of proposed improvements just as a sort of a sanity check to make sure when you imported your XML that what showed up is actually what you thought was supposed to be in the job. Okay. The other thing it does, you'll notice it actually calculates some fuel savings. And these, if you really wanted to confirm this, you could go back and look at your Econ 1 or Econ 2 and see if these match up. We don't really bother doing that. It does what it does, and we assume it's doing the right thing. This model validation stuff over here, I've never looked at it carefully. It's nice and colorful, but I don't know what 36,000% over means. So an infinity over, I don't know what that means. So I would say don't worry about this stuff either. Okay. So you do all this stuff. The last thing you do is you want to add the incentive. And this choices here are very simple. The funding source is always going to be PG&E Advanced or Basic. In almost all cases, it's Advanced. The incentive type is going to be either PG&E Gas and Electric, PG&E All Electric, or mixed territories here. So some jobs are going to be like this. So you have to pick the right combination of events so it knows how to calculate the funding or the rebate calculation. You do that, and you do a save and continue. Takes you back to the pre-application screen. If you have any notes or comments you want to give us, which we've talked about again on Wednesday, if there are unusual circumstances or things that you think we might want to know that are not embedded in any of the forms or documents, here's the place to do it. You fill this in, you add the note. I'm just going to put one word in here, and you save the note. And if we go back down, this becomes part of the official audit trail of the job. Okay, you do all that stuff, you submit it for review. We can take some questions now. Yep.
Got a couple questions. First question, could you show us which combination one would use for a SMUD job?
For a SMUD job, okay, let's go back to, well, let me unsubmit this. Because once you submit it, you can't edit it anymore. But you can unsubmit it if you decide you made a mistake or change your mind. You want to go back and edit basic data. No, I'm sorry, I take that back.
For the incentive.
Yes, you want to go and you need to delete this. You can edit the incentive, yes. And you go back here. Oh, you're going to have to delete it instead. Okay, delete it and start all over. Okay, so we'll go here, we'll delete it. Okay. Go back and add the incentive. Select funding source, PG&E Advanced, I'm assuming. And then, which does SMUD do? Is it gas or electric?
SMUD does, so PG&E does gas, SMUD does electric.
Okay, PG&E.
It'd be either other electric.
Gas and other electric.
Yeah, so it'd be either electric heating or gas heating then, huh?
Right, yes. Okay. So
it'd be one of those.
Yes, one of those, that one or that one.
Okay.
Okay.
Great.
And I'm still going to get back to what my house is for now. Okay.
couple other questions here. So the first question is this process an additional to the existing submission process, or is it instead of? And when do we start using the new process?
You can start using this today if you like. What we would really like you to do in an ideal world is stop using the portal immediately and start using Green Energy Compass completely. We're going to be between most of your existing jobs on the portal have been moved into Green Energy Compass. There's about 400 jobs in there, and some of them are your old pilot program jobs, which you have not seen. People have said, well, you said our pilot program jobs have been moved into the system, but we can't see them. That's because they weren't visible in the portal, but they were visible in Green Energy Compass. So most of the legacy jobs are in there. Actually, they should all be in there by now. Most of the stuff that you put in the portal has been moved over to Compass. One reason that we were getting so backed up on jobs is the original process was you would put a job in the portal, we would look at it, we would move it into Compass for you. This is one of the reasons why we got backed up on so many things. So if you go now to Compass and do everything in Compass, it'll just speed up the process for everybody. So we would love it if you would just jump right in and do it. We've tested this system pretty well. There probably will be some bugs and will be some process issues, but we've gotten enough jobs through here so that we're pretty confident that you can start putting your work in here. It won't get lost. It won't get messed up. There shouldn't be issues. And so we'd like you to do that. Of course, that's up to you. We can't make you do that, but the sooner you do that, the happier we're all going to be.
And just to add on to that, so there are some jobs that are in the portal that are not in Compass today, so we're going to make sure we're going to go back through and double check and do a final reconciliation, make sure that all your jobs are in Compass by Monday.
Yeah. And the other thing you may encounter is all the jobs that are in Compass that are yours, they may not have all of the data set properly. We're moving everything over. We've had different people doing it. Some of them have done it one way, some have done it slightly another way. So when you go and look at an existing job in there, as you start processing it, let's say you want to get it through the pre-application process, you should look at all of the data. Look at the basic data. Look at the current building. Look at the incentive. Just go through it and do a double check to make sure that it's got all of its parts there. So check the meters, check the pre-application, check the building data, and so on and so forth. It's just a good double check because the better the quality is at this stage, the quicker it's going to get through the pipeline.
There was a question about when this becomes the official system. I guess just to clarify that, the portals and the job application process for the portal are still going to be live for a while because there are other contractors that we haven't started training yet. You're the first wave. But for those of you on the phone who are getting this orientation today, you can make this your system of record, immediately. I guess the cautionary note is it's probably not a good idea to go back and forth between the two systems.
That would be a really bad idea because everything will get out of sync and it would take us days or weeks, or perhaps days or weeks to figure out where the heck everything is properly. So it's kind of like I would encourage you to try this out, take a look at it, look at some of your jobs that are in there, play with the system, try and get comfortable with it. We would encourage you to do that and just start using it totally 100%. If you really can't get that comfortable, then stick with the portal, but we want to get you up to speed on this as soon as we can. So that's the goal here. You're going to have to do it sooner or later. You might as well do it sooner.
Another question here on the incentives tab, if we can still look at that. There's a question of what is request exemption?
I have no idea. As far as I know, there's nothing like that that's part of this program, so we haven't really even looked at that. As Bruce pointed out earlier, Compass is used by a lot of different utilities around the country, and there are some things in here. I mean, I pointed out several things that I encouraged you to. I said they're in there, but you can ignore them, don't touch them, don't use them, pretend they don't exist. This is one of those also.
Yeah. A couple other things that you'll see in the system in general is things that reference TREAT. TREAT is used in a number of programs around the country. We're not using TREAT. You'll see some homeowner-facing features, some homeowner reports, some homeowner dashboards. Again, we're not using this system for that purpose at all, so you can ignore those kinds of features. And there's a few other things like that. So one thing that we'll be looking at as we continue to make enhancements are whether some of those extraneous things, if we can turn those off. But for the time being, we know we have a working system that we can process a job from start to finish all the way to rebate application. So we feel comfortable opening it up and letting you go to work with it. How do we change our password?
Good question. You know, I don't know. Hang on a second. There's got to be a way to do it. I suspect that what you could do is when you log out and you go to log back in, there's an option for forgot your password. Let me get back to you on that. I'll go ahead and I'm towards the end of the day today. I'm going to send out an email with the user manual and some other basic information or anything we think we missed. I'll include that in there. And hopefully there is a way to do that. I can't believe that there isn't, but hadn't really looked at that.
All right. 10 points for the person who stumped us on that one. Let's see here. Any other questions that we wanted to? I think we've covered them. Yeah, let's keep going.
Okay. Well, there's actually not that much more to show you. I could go ahead and okay. Well, this is your job dashboard here. Okay. And I can't show you this because we'd have to process a job through the whole system. What happens after? Well, okay. Here's the job status here. That's going to go away in a minute. Once you start filling in a job here, the status is pre-application started. Okay, and then you have to go to pre-application started to finish the job up, and then once you submit for review, the status changes to pre-application submitted. Okay, that's that one. Once it gets through the pre-application review process, which is going to be sort of the equivalent of our desktop review for all of the stuff we talked about on Wednesday, plus PG&E's back-end review, they actually just look for proper service IDs, an address that matches the service IDs, and a customer name that matches the service IDs. Once all that happens, you'll get a notice to proceed, and the job status here on the job list will change to notice to proceed. And then what will happen is, once you get that, this full application icon will become active. And you can click on that, and you can do your post-application job submittal. And that's basically, it looks almost identical to the pre-application submittal. You're going to have to, and I'm going to unsubmit this just to refresh your memory here. It's going to come here and it's going to ask you to upload your post-installation files. And there's still a question about, you add the improvement initially, but you can also add the improvement on the post-installation, which results in you can add the incentive on the post-installation, which results in adding 2 incentives here, and that's going to mess up the application. So I need to get clarification on at which stage you should add the incentive. We've been doing it at the pre-installation and not the post-installation. But if your job scope changes and your incentive changes from pre to post, you've got to put the post-installation incentive in here. Otherwise, it's going to be incorrect. So there's an issue there I have to clarify and let you know about that. Hopefully, we'll have an answer on that before Monday. Okay. So you upload all your files, and then you'll, again, do submit for review on the post-installation. Now, this review will be review prior to the incentive being approved and the payment process starting. And again, the review process here is similar to what we do for the pre-installation. We look at the files, we look for consistency, we look for an Energy Pro model that makes sense. We look for a valid building permit, signed contract, all the stuff we talked about on Wednesday. If it gets through us here at Build It Green, then we send it off to PG&E on the back end. And again, they check again for proper service IDs, matching address, all of the same stuff. If it makes it through that, then it goes through another review process in the innards at PG&E. We don't quite know what's involved there, but I'm sure they scrutinize it very thoroughly, and then they approve it for payment. So what will happen at that point is electronically it all comes back, and the status will change to approved for rebate or something like that. I don't actually know the wording there, but the job status will change, and you'll have noticed that it's made it through the process. The check is being cut. The check is in the mail, essentially. And that's it. That's the whole process, start to finish.
All right, so that's how hard it is. I'm looking for more questions. You can send a question. You can send us a chat note. Let's try unmuting people one more time and see if anyone has any direct questions.
And while we're doing that, let me make a few comments. Green Energy Compass is a work in progress. They do make changes to it on a regular basis.
Number 6.
So you, from week to week, you may see some
Certifier must provide a detailed description of the specific duties performed to qualify for the D65.
Okay. So you will see some changes, but basically its current status or its current state is workable, usable, and good to go as far as we're concerned. You may occasionally encounter a bug. That's not unknown. It's software. It's complex software. If you do, typically the bug manifests itself as your screen gets filled with a lot of computer-looking gibberish with a yellow background. If you get that, what you should do is take a screenshot of that using Alt Print Screen. That'll put a screenshot of that error on your clipboard. You should paste that into a document and save that document and send it to me in an email. And I'll forward it on to the proper authorities for speedy resolution. And then you can use your back button on your web browser to get out of that state, and it will take you back where you came from. Sometimes when you run into that kind of bug, you can actually go ahead and try it a second time and it will work. I'd say 3/4 of the time that won't work, so in that case what you'll need to do is just send it to us, and you'll have to stop working on that job for the moment, and we'll get it resolved as quickly as we can. It shouldn't happen very often, but it could happen. So that's what you do about bugs. Let's see, this afternoon we will be sending out the contractor manual to you, and maybe that'll have the answer to the magic question, how do I change my password? Talked about bug reports. You've got your logins. We hope to have all the data for all your jobs loaded in there on Monday at the latest, Monday morning. So again, you'll want to, once you start working on the jobs, check to make sure everything's there. If not, let us know, or you probably have all of the information you need to put in stuff that's not there, but we're going to try and get it all in there. And what we're hoping to do, at least, feel free to email me bug reports, like I said. If you have questions about how to do something, the best way to get an answer to that is to send me an email as opposed to giving me a call. You won't get immediate gratification on that, but my main mission next week will be to make sure that all of you are using Compass as successfully as possible. So I'll be looking for those kinds of emails, responding to those as quickly as possible.
So your emails can go to jobs@builditgreenutility.org.
Okay, sure.
And if you send it there, then there's several people that can access that account, and we can get speedy resolution on that.
Okay.
Question on the password again?
Yeah, it's GE Compass, capital G, capital E, capital C, Compass.
GE Compass. Okay.
Yeah. And we're hoping to do, as you send in either bug reports or questions about how to use the system, I'm hoping to every couple of days, depending on the frequency of issues that come up, send an email out to all of you on in this group, just sort of catching you up with things that have occurred to other people, or just information. If I feel like there's anything that you need to know, we'll be in close touch, at least for the near future, but we're hoping that everybody will be up to speed pretty quickly.
Great.
I believe that's all I have to cover.
All right, we've been, I think, keeping up with the questions as we go along. Here's a question. Will we be able to use this for the San Mateo rebate incentives too? And the short answer is no. So this is just for processing PG&E rebates. So local government rebates, that they have a parallel process for that. This is a cautionary note. If you're doing a job in SMUD territory and you want to get the PG&E gas rebate and the SMUD electric rebate, you would submit that same job twice, once to us and once to CBPCA with SMUD. Same thing, if you're getting a local government rebate, you would submit it to us for the PG&E rebate and to the local government for their rebate. So we don't process each other's rebates.
There's something related to the local municipal rebates, though. When you change the status of a job, when you submit it or when it gets approved or notice to proceed or approved for payment, you should receive some sort of email that says this job has been, say, approved for rebate payment. So you may be able to use those emails as proof of getting it through the Energy Upgrade California system and use it as a submittal document for triggering the rebate from the local municipality. We are starting to get questions on those, and it seems like that type of email should be sufficient. It's going to depend on every municipality, but so far that seems to solve that problem.
One more question that comes up on this job dashboard here. What does the score mean?
Again, that's one of those things I have no idea. I've noticed that jobs that have a high incentive amount, let's say, in the 40% or higher, tend to score 10, and those that have the low end on the rebate tend to score, in the 2s and 3s. So it's indicative of some sort of energy efficiency improvement. I believe that it relates to, let me go to this job here, just to give you an idea. There's this thing called an energy usage score that when you go to this screen is automatically calculated for a job. I believe it relates to that, but I haven't really worried about it too much.
It may actually be the DOE home energy score.
I think it is, yeah.
Which is a 1 to 10 score.
Yeah.
That may be what that is.
Okay.
It's clearly, as you can tell from our discussions here, it's not something we use. It's not something we pay attention to. It doesn't have an administrative function. It may become more important when you're comparing jobs within each other, or comparing to your friends and neighbors. But it's not central to what we're doing.
All I know is that when I go to this screen, it does this automatically, and it adds about an additional 5 to 10 seconds to my response time, which is annoying. But other than that, whatever. Okay.
Last call for questions. Let's see if there's any other questions that we've overlooked. Okay, I think we're caught up. So please feel free to send us questions offline. Like I said at the beginning, we want to start out with a small group of power users so that we are able to give you more individualized attention and work through your issues and get you feeling comfortable with the system as soon as possible. One more reminder about our upcoming webinar on August 16th. It's a participation workshop. So this is optional for all of you. You're already active participants. But if you'd like to hear a summary of the program process from start to finish, that webinar starts at 2 p.m. It's from 2 to 5 p.m. The explanation of the program mechanics, we'll get to that part starting around 3 p.m. If you want to skip the first hour, that's fine. And you should have all received an invitation to that webinar, August 16th, 2 p.m. for that participation workshop. And our next regular webinar for participating contractors program updates, that is September 13th at 3:30 p.m. So mark your calendar for September 13th, and that is specific for participating contractors, and that's where we'll be talking about more implementation issues and answering your questions from the field and things like that. So with that, I think there's one more question coming in. We're going to take one more question. How does the SMUD PG&E combined jobs, the calculation happens automatically? Can you explain how? Let's make sure I understand this question. Going on SMUD PG&E combined jobs, the calculation happens automatically. Can you explain how we do both? So let me see if I can explain this. So when you submit a job to us for a combined SMUD PG&E job, the PG&E rebate will be calculated on the gas portion of the savings. So if you get, for example, if you have 20% energy savings, which would normally translate into a $2,000 rebate if PG&E did gas and electric, but gas only accounts for 60% of the savings, then the rebate will be 60% of the rebate. 20%, 60% of $2,000 is $1,200. So that gets calculated automatically in Compass, and it gets calculated based on the gas-electric split that's from Energy Pro. So that split is recalculated for every job. So that determines how much rebate PG&E would pay out on the gas portion, and then you would apply separately in parallel to CBPCA, to SMUD, and they would calculate their rebate for the electric portion, and then your customer would get two checks, one from PG&E, one from SMUD, SMUD check for the electric savings, PG&E check for the gas savings, and that's where that comes from. So that's the backstory there. Okay, it is 10 o'clock. I think we've covered a lot of ground, and like I say, we certainly can answer more questions offline as they come up, but I'd encourage you to go ahead, log on, start exploring it, start to get comfortable with it, look at the jobs that are in there for you already. Most of your jobs should be in there, and start letting us know offline how we can help you get fully up to speed. So with that, I want to thank everybody for joining us this morning, and we'll look forward to talking to you in the coming days. Thanks. Bye-bye.